Why don't we get the meeting started at 7:07? I'll call the meeting to order. It's a Town of Norton, Massachusetts Zoning Board of Appeal meeting, January 6th, 2021. Happy New Year, if we can call it that. We have a few items on the agenda. Again, if anybody is present for the 40B known as 253 Mansfield Ave, that will be, we expect that is going to be continued tonight. We won't be hearing about it substantively anyway. So if anybody is here for that, that should be just a procedural matter. Just wanted to flag you. With us tonight is Mr. Tenore, myself, Mr. Noel. I see David Wren is with us. Alan Booley is with us, alternate member. And I saw Lucas here somewhere.
I'm here.
There's Mr. Wasiak, thank you. And Lucas is an alternate member as well. We have continued matters on for tonight, and the members who were appointed to sit on the matters as voting members were myself, Mr. Tenore, and Mr. Wren. Other members take part, but aren't voting members on these matters. This is being held by video conference, by remote telephonic or electronic means pursuant to the emergency orders imposed by the governor of Massachusetts in March due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have made access to the public available to the best of our abilities. This will be posted on the YouTube town website, hopefully tomorrow, though we're having some technical difficulties there too tonight. And our agenda also included phone numbers to call in for audio tap and an email for Mr. DiGiuseppe, our Director of Planning. If anybody needs to get through to Mr. DiGiuseppe to join us at the meeting, he can assist, hopefully getting you joined by telephone. But telephone numbers were provided on the agenda, on the posted notice as well. First item on the agenda tonight is continued hearing concerning a property located at 20 Eisenhower Drive. Is there a motion to take this up for further consideration tonight?
I'll make a motion to to open the meeting to a discussion.
For a second?
I will second.
Thank you. We have to take a roll call vote for these video meetings. Mr. Wren, how do you vote on the motion to resume the meeting on 20 Eisenhower Drive?
Oh, yes.
Mr. Tenore?
Yes.
And Mr. Noel votes yes as well. Okay, we opened this hearing at our last meeting way back in December, and we heard from both sides. We also heard from our current building commissioner, Mr. Iafrede. Is he with us tonight?
Yes, I am.
Yes, I see Nick there. Okay, thank you for being with us again. We had asked for the participants, the applicant who is attempting to overturn the decision of the building commissioner and the property owner, 20 Eisenhower, to forward whatever documents they had to forward to us. Both sets of people have done so, and they've been posted in our file and available for inspection. We also asked the building commissioner to give us whatever was in the building commissioner's file. The way I understand it is that the applicant here, excuse me, my voice is going as well. Another technical difficulty, right? Michael Basalia, and again, is that pronunciation correct?
Yes, close enough.
Thank you. Who is at 22 Eisenhower Drive, filed an appeal of building inspector's decision to issue a building permit in September of 2020 for the reconstruction or replacement of a shed on the parcel next door at 20 Eisenhower Drive. And I see that the owner of the property at 20 Eisenhower Drive, the Becerres, is that the correct pronunciation?
Yes.
Are with us as well. Thank you. And thank the participants for submitting additional materials to us. My understanding, Mr. Biseglia, is that you are appealing the building commissioner's decision to issue the permit in September, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And, I'm sorry?
And the continuance of the construction. Yes.
Okay, well, what we have is the building commissioner's original issuance of the building permit. Then after that, just to recite the record, you wrote to the building inspector. There's an email trail going back and forth. Building inspector directed, it appears, the homeowner to continue only insofar as to move the shed further away from the property line, but we can get into that if we have to in a few minutes. And the homeowner, we understand, did that. The building commissioner also issued a halt to the building permit back in September, until further plans could be provided and the issue could come before the zoning board. Members, have you had a chance to look at the additional materials to your satisfaction? I'll assume that members have had that.
I've seen it.
Sorry, I'm talking over you. I assume the members have had whatever opportunity they want to take to view additional materials.
Yes.
I see.
Yes.
Acknowledgement. Thank you. The way I see this is what we have is it's complex, but it's also fairly narrow. The way I see it is, did the building commissioner in September issue a building permit properly? That's the decision that we have. And then, of course, is upholding or his refusal to rescind that decision. I guess that's all part and parcel of the same action. But I think what we have to consider is whether he had a reasonable basis and information to do that in September. There's obviously a dispute between the two property owners. Let me ask, and members, please add your questions as well. Mr. Biscaglia or Ms. Biscaglia, you're the applicant here. Do you have anything else to inform the board about as far as anything that's occurred in the last 4 or 6 weeks? Since we talked to you last, I guess it's been about 4 weeks.
We reviewed the documentation in the Dropbox, and I guess one of our biggest questions was there was a letter in there that Chris had sent when the permit was suspended, and it said that the shed was originally a 15 by 16 foot shed.
Mhm.
So that's like where a lot of our confusion came from too, is because that was in the emails that he had exchanged with Michael as well. And we were told on the last meeting that the shed was I believe an 8 by 10 or a 10 by 10. I don't remember the exact.
Okay. Have you, okay, thank you. That's one of the questions that I think we have to return to as well tonight, but thank you for pointing that out. To the Bucciaris, the homeowners at 20 Eisenhower. Again, I'll just ask you, is there any update that you wish to inform the board about tonight?
No. Nope.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
and I'm hoping I didn't write this down wrong, but during our last meeting, I think we determined that it was a 10 by 10 shed. Was the old shed. The new shed is 16 by 20 or an 18 by 20. My notes are a little unclear on that. And it was about 5 feet off the lot line. That's what I wrote down.
If you'll allow me to ask the Bucheris again, I think we did go through this a bit at the last meeting.
Yes,
What was the dimension of the old shed? And by that, I mean the shed that was there prior to, say, August of this year, as
The
best
old-
you know.
the old one was a 10 by 10. The new one is a 16 by 20.
Okay. And I think I had asked you, had you measured the size of the existing pad, the pad that was there before? Was that also 10 by 10
Yes,
approximately, because the structure sat on top of that pad, right?
right.
Okay.
Correct.
There are two plans of record in the file. One is dated October 1 of 2020. The other is dated October 16 of 2020. And tell me if I'm wrong, but the building commissioner asked you to get a plan in the file. And so you submitted the first one, the October 1 plan. And then refresh my recollection why the second plan was received.
The first one was where we had started to build, and the second one was after we had moved the shed over.
So the second one shows the present location of the shed,
Yes,
Yes,
and that's the plan dated October 16.
yep,
That's according to your surveyor, Charette Land Surveying, right?
yes, yep,
yes,
And for the record, that shows the shed at the northerly end, 5.19 feet off the property line. At the southerly end, the backyard end, 4.42 feet off the property line.
correct.
And that represents you having moved the shed, what, about a couple of feet to the
Yes,
east?
we moved it 2 feet.
yes,
2 feet is what you
Yep.
attempted to try to do. Okay,
Yep.
gotcha. Jim, does that jive with your memory of the record and where we were?
Yep.
Okay. My issue here is that I need to ask the building inspector, Ms. Diafrede, if he could turn his audio on. The building permit, which I don't think we had last time, the building permit has, it appears, your signature or your stamp on it.
Correct.
Is that your signature?
Yeah, so we run on an online software system. And I had originally processed this application when it came in. And the way things are is that I was only working part-time at the time. So I was in on Wednesdays and Thursdays. But at the same time, the commissioner at the time had access to also issue permits when I wasn't around. I'm not saying that he did it or I did it. I genuinely do not have recollection of which one of us hit the button and actually issued this permit, but you are correct. My name is on it.
So, well, did you just say that you processed the application at first, or I thought I heard you?
I had processed the application, and I think in the software, we have the ability to send chats or emails to the applicants during the process, asking for further information, per the project. And I think I had started that process, but then as things progressed, Chris had kind of taken it over at the time. And as you see from the emails, they were going back and forth with Chris. So when the issue had arose, Chris was handling it. I genuinely didn't know where this stood until pretty soon before Chris had left. But again, I genuinely don't remember whether I ended up actually issuing this permit or Chris had done it. So
Okay, so if the two current plans are October of 2020, I was trying to determine what was presented in the file prior to the issuance of the building permit. And can you tell us what was in the file upon which the building permit was issued? Was it the other plan that we see, which looks like a mortgage plan?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was, I don't have exact dates in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it was just a mortgage plan. It wasn't an actual as-built surveyed, at the time of it. That as-built that shows the shed, I think you said it was almost 4.5 feet off the property line on the south side and 5 feet and change on the north side, was requested after the permit had been issued.
Right. And then the 2 October land plots came in.
Correct. There was a hand drawing, hand sketch of what the shed was proposed to be, I think, if I remember correctly.
Hey, Nick, if I may.
Yep.
On that permit, on the top of the permit, it says issued to, and then underneath that, it says to, and it says remove an old shed that was falling down, would like to rebuild a new one on the existing concrete foundation. Where would that have verbiage been taken from?
So when an applicant fills out a building permit application, there's a section for a description of the work that they're filling out the application for. That's where that comes from.
Okay.
It actually, to be more specific, Jim, that's verbatim from what they put in the application. That gets transferred verbatim right onto the permit application.
That's what I thought, and that's what it sounds like. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't someone putting it in, or was that taken directly from what's submitted? So
no, it's directly from what's submitted. And not to roll backwards or anything, but through some research that I've done on this, the assessor's field card has the shed as an 8x10. I'd never measured it. I don't think Chris did either, and actually confirmed that in the field. It doesn't mean that that's correct and that the homeowners are incorrect. They live there, so they could be far more accurate as a 10x10 than it was an 8x10. But just for the record, the field card does say 8x10 on it.
all right, appreciate it. Thank you.
And so it appears that the plan that was in the record of the building inspector when the permit was issued is something titled, down near the stamp, mortgage inspection in Norton, Mass, date 1/8/07. And that,
sorry, go ahead.
no, and that shows simply a shed without dimensions, except that typed in there, and I think the homeowner said that they had typed these figures in red. There's one figure that says 3.5 feet, 3.5 feet. And that was assumed to be the distance to the property line. Here's my problem with the building permit. On the record that we have, whoever issued the permit, the building inspector, doesn't have to be, identified to a particular person, seems to have said that you're allowed to build in the same location, 3.5 feet from the property line, and seems to have said or indicated that it as long as it's no more than 25% bigger in floor area than it was before. The communication that the applicant just pointed out to us and her question is a good question, because the actual communication you find it?
I'm looking through them now.
Well, one communication on October 2 responding says, Sandy, you can move the shed and keep the 16 by 20 footprint. Now that's what was there as of October 2nd. I will need another plot plan showing the shed in its final location. And that's the plan. We got to assume that was dated 2 weeks later, October 16th, and that was submitted, showing the shed had been moved over it, which is consistent with what we've heard from both the applicant and the homeowner.
I'm just trying to figure out how we go from, somehow we go from building on the existing footprint, which is either 8 by 10 or 10 by 10. I'm just gonna say the 10 by 10 because that's the homeowner saying that. We go from a 10 by 10 and all of a sudden we're now at a 16 by 20.
Yep.
And I can't figure out how we get there.
I
And
agree.
maybe I'm missing it and someone can clue me in.
Well, I agree with you, Mr. Tenori, because I think what the building inspector did was, and I found his letter. No, actually, that's not the right communication. There's so many communications here.
I think I know what happens. On their application. So I'm looking at the application.
What application? The
The
application to us?
Yeah. So on the town of Norton, well, the application, well, maybe no,
Right.
that's proposed set.
We don't have a physical application from the homeowner to obtain the building permit. Is that right, Mr. Iafredi?
It's in the system. I don't know if it's in the Dropbox, but it is in the permitized system. They did fill out an application.
Well, that's what we had asked to take a look at. It's not in the Dropbox that I saw. I mean, it would have to be printed out, I guess, and scanned in or something. But that's what we're angling to, what was the state of knowledge at the time? To me, it looks like the building inspector assumed that it was a certain size, didn't obtain measurements, and then said, so you can build 16 by 20, as long as you're not increasing the size by more than 25%.
So on the building permit,
Yep.
that's in here, when you go down, it says building size, it says 16 by 20 by 10. So although they say remove an old shed that was falling down, would like to rebuild a new shed on the existing concrete foundation, which should have read 10 by 10, but they didn't. The building size at that point, and so I think that's what either whoever the building inspector was, that I think Chris alludes to the 10 by 16 because he's taking it off that permit. You follow me?
Yeah, I am. And that's why I'm saying what was on the initial application. We don't.
It looks like it was 10, it looks like it was 16 by 20 by 10. But it doesn't jive with what
Right.
the existing concrete foundation was.
That's why I was asking last month to see the actual materials that led to the building permit. Now, are you saying, Nick, that there's electronic data that's filled in, or are you saying that the homeowner brings in a piece of paper?
So it's electronic.
Because it's done online.
It's not, yes, correct.
So can't that electronic submission of whatever the homeowner submitted be printed out?
It can, and I apologize for that, but yes, it can.
Well, that's what I was hoping to see, and I don't see it here. But what we have is the testimony of the homeowner, 20 Eisenhower, saying it was 10 by 10. Then we have the building inspector saying, well, same footprint, and you can increase it by 25%. But here's where I have my problem. I think the building inspector misapplied the bylaw. And if I can go to the bylaw, I'll explain, and we can discuss this, and I'm not closing off, comment from either the applicant or the homeowner. But it looks like the building inspector is looking at 175-1.6, either A or B, which says generally, and I'm just going to paraphrase, non-conforming structure can be reconstructed, extended, altered, as long as the building commissioner finds that it's not of a more harmful nature to the area and doesn't increase the habitable floor area by more than 25%. It looks like that's what the building inspector was looking at, whether it's part A or part B of that. My problem is I read these as applicable to residential structures. This is not a residential structure. So I think that the building inspector misapplied something. We don't know what specific section because it's not listed out anywhere, in any reason, except in his later letters where he says, as long as it's only 125% of what it was. In any event, 16 by 20 is more than 25% more than a 25% increase over either an 8 by 10 or a 10 by 10.
Right.
So I think the building inspector was wrong on a couple of points in issuing the building permit because number one, the size, I don't know if the size was determined or not because we don't have the original application, but what we have from the homeowner is the size of 10 by 10. Accept that as true or as accurate. I'm not saying it's untrue, false. I'm saying accept it as accurate for now. That would require then an application of these sections that apply to residential structures rather than an accessory structure. And I looked through pretty carefully. I did a word search for residential structure in the bylaw and accessory structure in the bylaw. And those are two different things. And so this, which was added just a year ago or 1 or 2 years ago, this exception that not every non-conforming use alteration or replacement has to come before us, that applies to residential structures only, not to other types of things, other types of structures, which would include accessory structures. So I think the building inspector's decision to issue the building permit was flawed. And that the applicant is correct to challenge this. Now, we haven't closed the public hearing. I'll ask the Bucciaris if they have any response to that, or if they have a copy of their application that they, want to show us with some different information.
The only thing I have a copy of is the permit that we were awarded, the signed permit from the building inspector that told us we could do a larger structure. I mean, we just went on what he told us we could do.
Yep. And you agree that this is a larger structure than what was there.
Right, and that was discussed with him.
Okay.
Right.
We're not faulting you for that.
Right.
We're just trying to establish, what happened in the facts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So Jim and David, do you have a different view or take on this? Anything else you want to ask of either the Bucciaris as the homeowners with the shed or the applicant who's trying to overturn the building inspector's permit? A decision.
I think the only, I was trying to find it in the documentation, but my recollection was that the shed was actually in process when the permit was issued. So in other words, I believe this project was started without a permit, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what the record seems to show, that
Yeah.
they got started and then they applied
Right.
or talked to Chris, and Chris said, oh, you got to apply and you got to do this. And they did that. And then he said, there was objection from the neighbor or question from the neighbor. And Chris said, oh, okay, well, we need a plot plan to show the distance from the side yard. They got one, the October 1st. And then Chris said, well, you know what, there's a question about the lot line and everything. So I'm going to allow you to move it over a couple of feet. And they did that as well.
Right.
So I'm not faulting the Bucciaris for what they were doing. They were, except at the beginning, they were proceeding along as they should. should have gotten the building permit first, yes. Even before they, demolish the old shed, I think they're supposed to. But
Yeah,
but
it probably
that's,
doesn't make a difference because either way, the permit would have been,
the permit would have
issued.
been, the permit would have been clearer, the process would have been cleaner, right?
right.
Exactly. We wouldn't be asking
And
these questions.
yeah, and I think the only question, I apologize, I'm on a different computer tonight, so I can't seem to get all my paperwork, but I seem to recall from the last meeting that the foundation, or the pad, I should say the pad, but the original pad, was it larger than the original shed? Does anybody recollect? Is that just, am I making that up, or some reason I thought the pad was already a larger pad than what was existing for a shed?
Ms.
We-
Bucieri?
Yeah, so we made the pad 2 feet longer to move this shed over.
Okay, so the pad though the original pad was approximately the same size as the original shed?
Yes, and we had to
So
move
10
it over, so we had a concrete company
Oh,
come, pour it, and move it over.
Right, so you went from 10 by 10
Yep.
to 16 by 20.
Yes,
So you
And then
added
And then we
6
have
feet
to
on
add
one,
2 extra feet, sorry. So right now, there's 2 extra feet because we moved the shed over
of concrete pad.
of concrete pad.
Yep.
Okay.
And
the
again,
extended concrete pad, okay.
Yeah,
and again,
Okay,
David,
okay.
I question whether that should have been subject to a building permit too. Now, we don't have to settle that tonight, but Mr. Iafrede, when somebody installs a concrete pad, are they supposed to have a building permit for that as well?
No, not necessarily.
Okay. Does
Well,
it
the
depend?
permit should have been triggered. Mr. Iafredi, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but per building code, you can build a shed up to, what is it, like 192 square feet, but anything over that size, you need a permit. So the size of the shed would have triggered a permit automatically.
100 square feet.
100 square feet, correct.
100, yeah.
Okay. So the point is the records, what the homeowner is saying the record is, we don't have the original application. But I think either way, the building inspector erred in issuing the building permit. Because this is not a residential structure. And so they were supposed to apply for a finding under 1.5E. They didn't do that because they weren't advised to do that, of course. But I think that, the narrow question from the abutter is, was the permit issued in error? And I think the abutter's right.
I think the way I'm looking at this, and I think the confusion comes from the original permitted application. I think by putting the 16 by 20 as the dimensions, it confused Chris because they clearly state in the top of that, they don't state in there that they're going to make the shed any bigger. They are saying, we're going to demolish the current shed and we're going to put a shed on the new existing pad. And then give it 16 by 20. In their mind, I think they were saying, hey, we're going to extend it, but they don't clearly say that. So I could see Chris going, all right, it's a 16 by 20. It's already existing. They're knocking it down. They're building a new one. No harm, no foul, as long as it doesn't exceed the 25%. And that is where this whole confusion comes into play, and why that maybe some of this may have been stated wrongly from the get-go.
But you're referring to the building permit, the statement in the building permit, which Nick has said is basically copied over from the statement that they get.
Correct.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
so I had a phone call with Chris during this permit application process. And I know I don't have the documentation, but I had spoken to him about the prior shed being smaller and us wanting to expand it to the 16 by 20 footprint.
He had the pictures of it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but even in the permit, like Nick said, Mr. Iafrede said, it's taken right off of the system.
No, I agree.
You say you're gonna just put up an existing shed. You don't say you're going to enlarge it. but yet the dimensions that are on there are enlarging it. So, I mean,
Well,
that's,
it says build a new one that is larger.
nope, does not.
Yes,
It does.
It says it on the permit,
And the permit says would like to rebuild a new one that is larger.
larger.
Existing concrete foundation. Now, how you could build a larger one on an existing concrete foundation, I don't know, but it does say that on the building permit.
Would like to rebuild a new one on the existing concrete foundation.
Hold up.
A new one that is larger.
It doesn't say larger.
Wait,
On the building permit itself?
hold on,
Is that
wait a
what you're
minute.
looking at?
Yeah, wait a minute, we have two versions of a building permit. I don't know what's going on here. I have a building permit from the inspector's office that says removed an old shed that was falling down, period.
Yep,
Like to rebuild a new one on the existing concrete foundation.
That's the
That's-
one I'm looking at.
that's not the one that I have.
Yeah, that Buccieri submitted. I thank you for pointing this out. Jim, the Buccieri submitted some papers in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
There's a building permit there that's dated the same day,
oh my,
as appears to be signed by Mr. Iafrede. I just noticed that they were different just now, so I
I
don't know
didn't
what
even
else.
notice that. So Paul.
I don't know what else is different, but this one
let me-
says, wait, just for the record, this one says removed an old shed that was falling down, period. Would like to rebuild a new one that is larger on an existing concrete foundation.
I can't even find that one.
I'm telling you, it's in Dropbox. The Buccieri submitted it. I don't know if this was submitted in December, I think, since our last meeting.
do you want me to share it on the screen?
If you know how to do that, you're better than I am.
Yeah, that's fine.
Do they
Paul, can she?
I guess, do they
that,
have
or-
the same number?
Is yours R-20-0473?
They are the same number,
That's crazy.
Yep.
same date. So we gotta, this Buccieri, okay. Yeah, that's the one that is in the packet that,
So one that is larger on an existing concrete foundation. And
okay.
then the building size, 16 by 20 by 10.
Yep. Well, the other one says 16 by 20 by 10 too, but
Okay.
the language is different. Ms. Buccieri, can you tell me when did you obtain this building permit? Is this a paper record you had, or is this an electronic record?
It came in a electronic record.
When did you get the electronic record?
I can try to find when I got it.
I mean, is this one you just downloaded again in December after we asked you for whatever?
No, this is the original one that I have.
You think it's what you got back in September? How
Yeah,
was it-
that came in my email from the permit, from the building
Okay,
inspector.
I'm gonna ask you to find that email and forward it to us. But Nick Iafrede, do you have any idea why there would be two versions of this?
Absolutely none. I don't know. This is just as mind-boggling to me as it is to everybody else.
Your name stamp is, it looks like a stamp. That's what you were saying. It's an electronic signature, right?
Correct.
But that either of you could have applied the signature.
Yes.
This is something that should not be, members, two different versions. Can you take that screen down?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay,
it's okay.
before you take that down, can you do me a favor? Can you scroll to the bottom of it? Because I can't find it. I don't know why
Sure.
I can't find it.
Of course. This is the file that I had sent you guys.
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree. And Nicole put that in Dropbox sometime in the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
I went and I got it today. I got it.
I guess maybe I'll have to go back and look. I thought they were the same. I
That's-
didn't.
That's why when you read it, Jim, both she and I said, wait, you're missing 3 words.
Yeah,
They appear to be otherwise the same, except, this one has some red ink, and the one from the building inspector's office looks like a copy, so it's black ink. But clearly, we have to find out what's going on here. There shouldn't be two with two different. statements in them on the
If
same
we could
date.
just
in other words.
interject too, we had received a copy of the permit from Nick, and ours doesn't say the thing about larger either. It just says an old shed that was falling down. So that's where our confusion was coming into, because we were seeing different documents.
Okay, I'm going to ask the members to continue this again, because I want to get to the bottom of how this happens in our system. It may be just a flaw in the system. It may be, you know, that it can be changed on a lark and then, you know, reissued. I don't know. But we clearly need to know which one was transmitted to the Bucciaris and then which one was transmitted to the abutter when the abutter asked for a copy of the building permit. Can I ask each of you to literally forward the actual emails that you got from the building inspectors that contained whatever copy of permits you got in the last 3 months?
Yeah, ours is in the Dropbox already for tonight's meeting. I did forward it to Paul just to show when we got it.
It's actually the email forwarded to Paul.
Yeah, I think it's the one that's in the Dropbox. If
Well,
not,
that's what I want to see, the email with the attachment so that we can see which attachment was sent to who, when.
yeah, I can do it right now.
This isn't making me comfortable about our permit system.
So
Well,
I found my original email, and it's just a link to the permit site, but I have a copy that I downloaded on my phone itself of the one that I showed you guys that says a new one that's larger.
Okay. Send me the email with the link in it then. Send us that email with the link. You might have already done that. I'm just asking you to isolate
Of
when you
course.
got this permit, send that email. I mean, maybe if you click on the link now, the other one is going to be.
Yeah,
in the system. I don't
I'm gonna
know.
do that right now.
That's what I'm trying to find out. And clearly the permit should not have been changed after it was issued. Or maybe it can be, I don't know. But I want to know what the facts are before we go further here. Jim or Dave, do you have
No,
any?
that's important because I never saw that other one. And if that is the case, then I would then revert to Mr. Chair, what you were saying, that maybe the bill inspector was in error. It would definitely, it's the facts need to come out as much as these, you know, everyone wants to get this off our plate. I think we need to iron that out first.
I certainly want to know what happened. Yes, Mrs. Bucciari?
So when I go to the link, it takes you to the permit application that I physically filled out. And under 5.5 description of proposed work is where you can put a description of your proposed work. And it says, removed an old shed that was falling down, would like to rebuild a new one that is larger on a concrete foundation, on an existing concrete foundation. And then it says, brief description of proposed work, removed an old shed that was falling down, would like to build a new one that is existing on a concrete foundation. So there's a specify and then there's a brief description. So I'm guessing that's where.
Yeah, but okay, but we have two different permits here with two different
Right.
wordings on them. So thank you for pointing that out. I'm going to ask you, you sound like you know what you're doing on the computer. Can you PDF that so we can see your actual application
Yeah, of course I can.
and send that to us? And I mean, I'll try to go into the system too, but I think we have to know what happened here before we make any
Do
decision.
you want me to share the screen with you right now?
Not now. No,
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to PDF it and
Sure.
email it to Mr. DiGiuseppe, who can give it to all of us. And we just need to find out what happened. And if if the language was changed on the permit at some time, okay, maybe that's okay, but we need to know who changed it, why it was changed. Even so, I think there's a problem with the building permit, but I think we should iron this out first. Dave, Jim, unless you have anything further right now, is there a motion to continue this? On our next meeting, we had set an interim date of January 27. I'm going to suggest that we're going to need that meeting. It's 3 weeks from tonight. Is that still okay with you, Dave and Jim and members?
Yeah, that should be okay.
Is there a motion to continue this matter to January 27 at 7 p.m.?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue this matter to January 22nd at 7 PM.
27,
Oh, 27th?
27 at 7 PM.
Oh, sorry, 27th.
And is there a second?
I will second Tenor.
Okay, before we vote, I'm going to ask again, the applicant and the Bucciaris simply to give us as much as you can of the actual communications you got from building inspection department. Forward them as you got them so that they'll have the attachments when they arrive to us. Okay?
Sounds
you.
good.
Thank you for your patience. We'll
Thank
get
you.
to the bottom of it somehow. And is there there's a motion pending. Mr. Tenori, how do you vote on the motion to continue?
Yes.
Mr. Wren, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
And Mr. Noel votes yes as well. Thank you for your patience, and we will see you in 3 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to know what happened, how a permit gets changed in the system, and I want to know what each household got. Next item on the agenda, we'll put that aside for now. Is our government still intact, by the way?
I haven't been activated yet. So we're good.
Good,
They're returning to session right now, actually.
good.
And I got nervous for a second. I lost my connection for a second. I said, oh, God.
Well, I was wondering the same thing, the internet gods are at work. They're against us. There's been a clampdown on all internet communications, maybe. Okay, second item, and again, thanks for standing by. Continued public hearing for the 40B comprehensive permit application for 195 Mansfield Ave. The applicant owner, AR Building Company, Gus Nominee Trust. The applicant seeks to construct a 100-unit rental apartment building, including 25 affordable housing units. The hearing is still open. Is there a motion to take this up for further discussion tonight?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to take the applicant up from the matter for further discussion.
No, Tenor will second.
Okay, Mr. Wren, how do you vote on the motion?
I vote yes.
Mr. Tenori, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Noel votes yes as well. Okay. Mr. Freeman, thank you for your patience.
No problem. Thank you.
To your team as well. I'll ask you to briefly bring us up to date. I understand that you and Mr. Di Giuseppe have had some back and forth and some work between you. I'll ask you to bring us up to date, but I'll also say up front that I think we have a glitch. It's not insurmountable, but it's an issue that we've identified that we have to resolve. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Noel. So in a nutshell, we had gone through a draft decision which had a lot of input from my original draft and input from Paul, and it was discussed quite thoroughly, I would say, at the last hearing. And there were a few things that, at the board's suggestion, we were asked to tweak, we meaning Paul and I, to either add a couple of things or to tweak some things. And we did that, not to speak for Paul, but I did ask him to our mutual satisfaction. So the document that he sent to you was one that he and I, naturally on behalf of my client, the applicant, have agreed to. There were really no other things to be accomplished other than, I think, some slightly revised plans that Brandon Carver DePreti did send in, I think adding some more specifics on where the parking area would be kind of held for the future, not parking area right away, but a central grassed area. And that left lane turn, or maybe it was the sidewalk. But anyway, all of those have been done and submitted. So basically, we think that it's the time to, as we did last time, just to go through it again and work out whatever is left, which I don't think is too much.
Are we talking about the draft with Paul's initials at the end dated December 21?
I think so. I would have said December 22nd, but Paul, maybe it was December. Problem is yours. Yeah, it does say, yeah, the one you sent again through the link is 12/21, correct.
At 8:40 something at night completed. Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we know. the glitch that, I don't remember if we hit this at the last meeting or if it was a question, me to staff, after the meeting. The water and sewer fees. You're asking for a waiver of connection fees. It's waiver, looking for it.
Right, it's in there in the waiver list at the end, correct?
Gotcha. Have you approached the water commissioner, water and sewer commission?
Timing wise, from the last hearing and the holidays, we were not able to, but we did actually discuss that, Mr. Chairman, with the board, with you folks and with Paul at the last hearing. And then Paul, either at the hearing or subsequent, emailed us with Frank
Fournier?
Yes, thank you, Frank Fournier. I remembered this afternoon, Paul, right?
You did. Yes, you
Frank
did.
Frank Fournier's name and number. And as I say, with the holidays and everything, we got some information, which I'll share with you in a second, and Brandon Carr can fill in anything else because he spoke to Mr. Fournier. Their next meeting, a formal meeting of the commission, is January 12th, and we have asked to be placed on their agenda.
Okay. I didn't know this.
Right. So what, we were hoping is we'd have an understanding that it was a, manageable fee, and we thought it was fine and, wouldn't need to drag this out. Well, we still don't want to, when I say drag out, I think we're so close to completing it, would like to complete it tonight. If the board has any inclination to indicate that either you grant some kind of waiver, like on the affordable units, the fee turns out, the water is fine. That's no big deal. The sewer, since it's based on gallonage and all, turns out to be about $581,000. So it is significant. And, I don't want to, hem and haw and go back and forth. If the zoning board, is okay with granting some type of reduction, that's fine. I will say right off the bat, we understand that, often in the past in Norton, you've left it to the commissioners. So, we'd like to see how you feel about that. And, if we have to go to the commission, I naturally would reserve our right under 40B, but, we would do that if that's what you feel is necessary.
My understanding was that we always had the water commissioner come to us in these meetings to talk to us about fees and to tell us what they were amenable to doing, but that it was the zoning board's decision. And we asked town council and she agreed that it's the zoning board that has to do whatever waiver is appropriate. So the glitch that I was referring to, and I didn't know you had talked to the water commissioner. I didn't remember how thoroughly this had come up at the last meeting or whether it was right after that. But don't we need to hear from the water commissioner?
Well, at this point, and I agree with what you said, and of course, with hindsight, we all wish that Mr. Fournier had come already. But Jason, you can speak up if you want to, chime in on this. But at this point, I think we would rather have you wrap it up tonight and just have a condition that does say that, you support the concept of reduction in water and sewer fees, but that, you leave it to the, discretion of the Water and Sewer Commission. I mean, the alternative is that we come back after January 12th, and if we worked it out, then that's it. But on the other hand, it all amounts to the same thing. And, with such a substantial amount, and depending on how things go, at some point it could say, geez, it does really make it almost uneconomic, even though, I'm not saying that that's the case yet. It just is a lot of money when I think on this project, unlike some in the past, in this project, there's really not much additional work that relates to the sewer. So I'm not saying they don't have a right to their fees, however they calculate them, but it does seem like a lot. And that's not in any way, saying anything against how they set their fees.
Well, I understand. And part of the issue is that the water commissioner, of course, Mr. Knapp is no longer with us, sadly. So it's a new water commissioner that we haven't worked with on a 40B before. Mr. Knapp was always very active in coming to us and saying, here's what it is, here's what the fees are, here's what we're willing to do, and here's what we would like the board to do. we don't know any of that. And this kind of got, I'm not putting it on you having not contacted the water commissioner till recently, but this is something that has usually been before us, and it's been quite an issue. I don't think it's up to us to say we favor waiving the water or sewage fees when we don't even know what those are. I was going to suggest, and I didn't know about the January 12th meeting. I appreciate you telling us about that. I was going to suggest and having Mr. Fournier come to the January 27th meeting so that we can be clear on what the water and sewer department feels is appropriate, so we can at least make an informed decision. I'm not comfortable leaving it, oh, we approve everything, this is good, subject to the Water and Sewer Commission waiving their fees. I don't think that's our, I think that's abrogating our duty to hear the evidence and to make a decision, which is what 40B requires the zoning board to do, unfortunately.
That's not actually what we're asking.
Hold
Well,
on.
that's, yeah,
Mr.
if I was
Hold on.
unclear, if I was unclear, which I must have been, I apologize. I did add some extra verbiage, but the point is if subject to Jason speaking after me and agreeing, rather than go through that and prolong the time for a decision to be completed, we would, it appears, and Jason will confirm or not in a minute, that we would say, okay, just say we will go to the Water and Sewer Commission and, we have to work it out with them. And if that's it, then you don't have to have any evidence because we're not asking you to make the decision.
Mr. Cambiches, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What Peter said is what I was going to say. We're not asking you to waive the fees. We're asking you to say it's okay if they go ahead and waive the fees. That's really what it comes down to, or a reduction in the fees. I mean,
Right. Okay.
We're not too sure what they'll do.
Yeah, we don't know. They may not do anything.
But that's it's the zoning board's decision. And in the waivers, you've asked for waivers granted from paying the water and sewer connection fees for the affordable units in the project. So I don't think we can make a pass on that and just slough it off to some other board. It's our decision, and council's advised us that we should ask for their input. And again, it had been done as a matter of course before because the former water commissioner kind of involved himself proactively in all of this. Members, do you have comment on this issue? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
I'm trying to look back. I know we got comments back from the Water and Sewer Commission on the project, but they don't. I'm trying to look back. I don't remember them weighing in on the fees at all.
No, there wasn't. There no comments from the.
I didn't think so.
Commissioners.
I don't think it's any comments.
It was more along the lines of capacity, I think.
Right.
The system, we can handle the added, I don't think they used the word capacity, but it was very tepid, communication. I don't think it addressed the fees at all. And that's what I'm saying. I realized either before or during the last meeting that, wait, we haven't addressed that yet. I would like to ask Mr. Fournier to come in 3 weeks and maybe we resolve everything that night and close the public hearing that night. But I don't think we can do that until we hear from the water department. Members, do you agree?
I agree that I don't think we can delegate this responsibility.
That's a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
That's a better way of putting it than I did.
I think that's what town council, Peter, I just want to, as we've worked a lot together, this afternoon, the chair and I spoke, and I ended up emailing town council this question. And as the chair has been stating, so that's where this is coming from, was an email we received this afternoon from council. So I'd like, if it's okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, if everyone's okay, I'd like to participate at the Water and Sewer Commission next week.
Yes.
To answer their questions about this and.
Yeah, and to the extent Mr. Fournier, hasn't been through the 40B process before, an explanation that, it all comes through us, but we need to hear from him or them, whoever he wants to appoint. I'd ask you, Paul, to ask Mr. Fournier to be here in 3 weeks.
Right. Or their chair could possibly.
I'm sorry?
Or, it's possible their commission, their commission's very active. They're an enterprise fund. So that's one of the things I can talk to Frank this week. And then when we present,
But I would like, I'm sorry, I remember in the past getting a schedule of water hookup fees for this many units, sewage hookup fees, tap fees. There are different kinds of fees. And then we have a whole number, and then the proposal is to take 25% of that off. And that's a substantial number. And I think we have to know, I want to know what those numbers are, the total and therefore the 25%.
It's Brandon Carr with the Preet Engineering. I've been talking to Frank Fournier yesterday and today. And we know those fees. I can tell you them right now.
Well,
the water connection fee, there's two. There's one for each. There's one for the fire service and one for the domestic service. That fee is $20,000 for the domestic and $50,000 for the 8-inch fire main. And then, as Peter said, the sewer connection fee is based on bedroom count. We have 151 bedrooms, and then they multiply times 110 gallons per bedroom. That's the Title V requirement. And then your connection fee is $35 per gallon. So that comes out to the $581,350 that I think Peter said before. So those are the actual connection fees that Frank gave me.
Okay. Thank you for the information. I think I would like to hear from Mr. Fournier. I'm not doubting you, Mr. Carr, but I'd like to hear from Mr. Fournier and ask him if this is the totality of all the fees that we're talking about. And be able to ask questions about even capacity and things of that sort. We're the board, it's all supposed to come through, and unfortunately that's the case, but I'd like to be able to say we made an informed decision, having heard from the department. Jim, Dave, do you agree?
I agree wholeheartedly.
And to the applicant, apologies if the delay is a further delay that you didn't anticipate, but it could have been avoided with communication earlier on in the process from any of ourselves as participants. So Paul, you can speak to Mr. Fournier, communicate with him, and request somebody to speak to the totality of water and sewage fees that are would be charged, and then 25% figure, which is obviously easy math. But we'd like kind of an explanation of what that all entails to be able to talk to somebody at the meeting. Okay?
Yes.
Yeah, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just texting a little bit with my client because of all these social isolation things. We're not together, but anyway, a couple of things. It could be handled, but I do have to hear back from Jason. It could be handled by our withdrawing the request for that waiver. Whether or not we do, because, I hear you, and, I don't know why somehow it never, got to the point with any of us that we didn't meet with them. So that's fine. And 3 weeks is 3 weeks. It's not like it's a humongous amount of time. But two things. I'm not trying to in any way, prevent you from feeling that you have all the information you need to, but other than the question of the fees, you do have all the information because they did submit a report, as I think Paul said. Paul is contacted with them, and from the get-go, both with our initial meetings with the selectmen under the LIP application, the LIP process, And I think we had at least two, if not more, informal column-like site plan review meetings with the staff of all departments. And there has been no indication whatsoever that there is any issue with capacity or the technical things, which we say we're going to comply with anyway. We will. So I just honestly want to be clear that I don't think it's necessary to, get into a whole question again about what are they saying about the capacity and the technical aspects, because there's indication that that's fine. And Paul can correct me if I'm wrong. So, and I bring that up only because if my client does choose to, continue for 3 weeks, I just want to be clear that, that it seems as though the only thing is really not the technical or capacity issues of the sewer, but the fees. And the second thing is, even if we do continue, I still think it behooves us to go through the revisions to the decision tonight if we could.
Sure.
Not meaning to dictate anything, but because there's not tons left in that. So.
Mhm. I don't disagree. And you're right about the capacity. I said I'd be interested to hear, but you're right. They did already tell us about capacity, I think. We'll look back at that letter. But in all fairness, Peter, the waivers were presented to us when they were presented to us after, and that was after the meetings with the town officials. So, we're acting on the waivers that are before us, and that's why we're asking for that information. I agree with you though on the capacity, whatever issues were in their initial letter. We're not going to go over that again. We're not trying to reopen old issues, certainly. Okay, so my understanding though is that this has been reformatted. Paul put it in a new form.
Yes, essentially reordering a bit to have certain pre-permit conditions in one place, pre-building permit and the like.
Okay, so the version that's in the Dropbox, which as we said was dated December 31st, the initial PD at the end of it, that's our Paul Di Giuseppe. I have that before me. That's what I'm looking at. Dates were filled in on the first page as we asked. These are the meeting dates of the public hearing so far. You filled in other information on page 2. The blanks are there for our specific votes. Peter, why don't you take me through on what changes are here, if you, to the extent you can identify them easier than I can.
Sure, happy to do that. Sorry for the tech stuff. We're not being secretive. It's the only way to just talk to your.
Not at all, not at all. If you want to take a 5-minute break too, we can.
No, I'm ready. I'm good.
Okay. I don't mean to roll over you. If you want to talk publicly for 5 minutes, we can do that. There's also, on some of these, there's capacity to have a side chat. I don't know if this Zoom does it or not.
Yeah, no, we're good. That was just very brief. So likewise, on the next page, it's just the members who are voting. On the next page, it's the jurisdictional things. There are no changes there. Just we'll fill in the dates because we don't know if it'll be voted tonight or in 3 weeks. Let's see. We had discussed this, and I think the next one on page 4 was already in there. If I recall, Paul, that although colors on the word processing sometimes are different, I think what's in blue and then this one on page 4 highlighted in yellow, that had been in there, but just to point out, it just was a factual statement, not a condition. Because I had probably been the one who misremembered and misstated, but because
You're talking about number 13, Peter?
Yeah, number 13. I'm sorry if I didn't say that.
Go ahead.
So that's factually correct. So, that I don't believe is a change, but again, a date was filled in. And there may not be anything else in terms of new stuff until we get into the conditions. On page 6, under the conditions, which starts at Roman numeral 4 and then A, in number 1, we did fill in, I can't remember if we already had, but we filled in the exact breakdown of the units.
We asked for that. Thank you for doing that.
Again, the blue, I believe, was already there.
Sorry, blue. Oh, blue at number 4 down at the bottom.
Yeah. And then starting in all the way down to page 8, near the bottom is the new section B, which is general conditions. And this is part of the reformatting in terms of order, organization of it. So, and now they're called standard conditions of approval. this, it's new, but it's not substantive. We'll record the comprehensive permit after the expiration of the appeal period. And it won't take effect until it's recorded, that's fine. And that's what Paul added. Then going down to number 9, I guess it's 2 pages later, number 9, really all that's in red is either new or reordered. I won't read them out loud, but if you all want to look at 9, 10, and then we
But
can start.
are those newly inserted or just moved?
It's a combination. I think number 10 was there. Number 9, it just says we shall operate under the comprehensive permit, and any substantial deviation must be approved by a modification. So I had different language, which may still be there later at the end, because the process of modification, so we're subject to that anyway. Paul, I can't remember if numbers 1 through 4, they're definitely reordered. I think some of these had been in there, so I'm sorry, I can't remember if these were just reordered or if you added some things.
Some of them were added, but again, these are kind of standard in any, these come from the work we do with special permits. But again, these are things that, we would need as part of the building process.
Yeah, and again, it's a combination of reordered and worded slightly differently, because I know that I had something in there that you had seen about a construction schedule to be submitted to the building commissioner. These are all fine. We're good with them.
Okay, so Peter, you looked at the new stuff and you don't have a problem with the new stuff.
Oh yeah, yes. As I had said, Paul and I have gone over it, and we're A-okay with these things.
I see COVID-19 made it in here.
Yeah, I think I had put that in the last draft. I must have seen a smart lawyer add that one, so I copied it.
All right, good, Peter. We all copy.
That's what we do. Yeah.
We copy contracts.
That's right. Let's see. So again, I think there were just some grammatical or typo type things. The renumbering is in red, but that doesn't matter. And then on the
just what page as you're flipping?
Well, yeah, it's page 12, and it looks like it's the new number is number 7.
Yeah.
And we'd already had the language on the business about the sidewalk and Mass dot Department of Transportation.
Here's the language we had talked about last time.
Right, because remember we talked about, which I think surprised a lot of us, but that the town treasurer says it has to be cash. Not, but okay, so we'll accept that. I guess maybe I forgot to fill it in. Brandon, do we have a figure to suggest on the amount of the bond for sidewalk?
Yes, 1 second. I had coordinated and sent it over to Paul. It's $29,250.
Okay, this is paragraph 7 on page 12 of this version.
Yeah, correct.
And that's Mr. Carr, that's based on just what, quickly?
DOT standard pricing, which then I reviewed with the town engineering department, and he had a couple modifications. We went back and forth, and then I think I followed all the correspondence to Paul.
Yep. Brandon, could you repeat that? 29,250. 29,250. Great. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then
Paul, that was agreed by the town engineer or whoever that was.
Highway superintendent.
Okay.
But he's qualified to price infrastructure projects.
Thank you. Go ahead, Peter.
All right, and then just some grammatical things. The next one is on page 13, and number 12 and number 13, which is mostly reordering. Number 12 is about final drawings showing the on-site water and sewer given to the superintendent. That's naturally fine. And then, some things prior to issuance of building permit, the applicant shall provide to the building commissioner conservation director and the board. I think conservation director was added. But then, as you can see, there's no redlining because all these things were in there essentially before. I think the only new one there is F as in Frank, an affidavit from a professional engineer that the landscape complies with landscaping plan. You know, that's fine. And
Yep.
speaking of landscaping, the next one on the next page, the new number 17, Paul added, the applicant shall provide a 2-year guarantee on all new plant material, such the applicant, well, that must be a typo, I didn't notice, such, or so that maybe the applicant will replace.
Or such that.
Yeah, yeah, the applicant will replace any tree or shrub that dies within this time period.
Can I ask what the yellow highlighting is on this page 14? Is that Paul?
I think it was from a previous version, and sometimes what happened, and it happens at least with mine, and it may be my lack of proficiency, is I had highlighted it, and whether it was for my team to see or for Paul to see, but it doesn't matter. I think it just doesn't highlight anything new right now, but it was, some of it was left from a previous version.
Just for discussion, in other words.
At the past, yeah, because we already covered the things that were in blue there.
Okay, go ahead.
Then let's see.
Yeah, I see the reordering is construction, pre-construction, and here it's post-occupancy, and so it's more of a timeline, which is
exactly,
well,
yes,
it's convenient, Paul.
And it's also that it helps us, and particularly Nick and some other folks when they're working on the building permits. It helps us know when particular actions need to be completed.
Sure.
So this was something Amy helped us with. Our town council helped us with on site plan and special permits, and it really helps as far as with the conditions, and then as far as implementing it.
Great.
And I agree. It's a good way to organize. So then there are 2 new things that we're fine with at the bottom of page 15 about the applicant protecting adjoining properties from damage and all of that, which would be our legal responsibility anyway, but we're perfectly fine to have it in there.
Yeah.
Likewise, the next one talking about take the steps to minimize and control water pollution, et cetera. So, that's all fine. Those were new. And likewise, number 10 is new. We had discussed it. I had mentioned earlier the business of 18 parking spaces in the reservation of the opportunity to put spaces in. But so it's fleshed out more. I think this is all Paul's language, but I agreed with it. It makes sense. I think it's a reasonable way to deal with it.
What's the 18 reserved parking spaces? Reserved as in held back, not constructed.
Right. The one shown on the site plan that right now will be open space, but could be in the future if it's determined. So we were just trying to figure out that mechanism for determining when, when they would determine if they need more.
The word reserve jumped out as, you reserved it for Peter Freeman to use, and nobody else, or something like that.
Well, we will, right? I mean, Peter will have his name on a space there, I'm sure, but, and that reserved is also the term used on the site plan itself.
Oh, okay. Got it. Thank you for clearing that up for me.
And that's it on the decision itself. On the waivers,
where did 3 go? Why is 3 taken out? Or is it just moved?
Is that a deletion? Is that 3? Yeah, we had discussed that, and I think it was Paul's suggestion that come out, and it was dealt with by specifically for the sidewalk surety if necessary. And
yeah, right. We don't typically ask for surety for paving a parking lot.
Okay.
We typically ask for surety for public infrastructure like sidewalk.
The parking lot's going to be there, so.
Right.
Yeah. From this might have come from whatever it was, 267 East Main, that where there was a road to be constructed later or something like that, but I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And, and then on the waivers, we did go through them. On the one on the sign, I think maybe I should have edited that. And I think that, the dimensions are on the sign. I'm sorry, the dimensions for the sign are on the plan. We had a discussion as to whether we really actually need waivers or not, Paul. And I'm not sure, I think you might have said we didn't, but in terms of how you vote with it, you could either just grant it to say as shown on the plan, or you could say it complies. So whichever way.
If it's not a waiver, we should just maybe put it in as a condition.
Well, I don't mean, I guess I am. I always say you don't mean to put somebody on the spot, but I am putting Paul on the spot because I think we agree. I recall some emails between Brandon and you, Paul,
Yeah.
where we did wind up saying that actually what we're doing size-wise is, in compliance with the existing bylaw. But signs, all that stuff gets so fussy, and as a lawyer who may not be the expert in reading a particular sign plan and dimensions, but for 1 inch, if we made a mistake, it just seems to me, more prudent to say, approved as shown on the plan. So it's not in a wide open, waiver. It just says, yeah, what you show on the plan is approved for this project, and just do it that way. I'm right where it is here.
Oh, so leave it in waivers?
Yeah. Just say, you could get into, it was more for food for thought in the previous
Right.
reviews. That's why I said confirmation. I'm just suggesting now that it's easy to just say, granted for the sign dimensions as shown on the plan.
Okay. We have no problem with signs. We just voted to allow the moving of a billboard last meeting, so.
Oh, billboards are always fun. And then the rest that Paul did was not much, but just, I think, changing words like the commission instead of whatever I had or something, director of.
It looks like some formatting problems on my copy.
Right.
We can fix that.
And then
Yeah.
the one which is, the last one conveniently is the one that we were talking about earlier. And I think the choices, and I don't know, Jason, if you texted back to me, but the choices, it seems to me, are to, if you can, to, I think this is what, Jason would like, and I think it's reasonable, is say, yes, we will come back in 3 weeks. We'll meet with the water commissioners, hopefully have kind of a joint report, or at least we'll all know what they say. And then we come back and you make whatever decision, hopefully with some reduction for us at that time. But whether it's considered a formal vote, but at least essentially almost a formal vote to say, yep, tonight, again, I don't mean to be, too pushy, but that you just actually say, yeah, this decision as drafted now with these revisions is fine, and grant the waivers other than, holding off for 3 weeks from now on what happens with the water, or rather with the sewer commission fees.
Yeah,
I
I know
understand.
at the last meeting, Tom, can I just speak real quick? I know at the last meeting, you guys brought that up of breaking them down into 2 meetings, things that we could do tonight, and then if we have to come back later. I know for us, there's a certain level of surety of saying, look, we've done all this work up to this point. We're all in agreement on it, and this water commission thing, and not to disparage who did or what did or anything like that, because it's kind of a formal versus informal process of that. We come back later in 3 weeks and then we do that. I mean, I think it's worth it to us. And I know there's a certain level of comfort on your end, which we understand. So if we say, look, the rest of this is fine, we vote on it and say, look, we're comfortable with this if you are. And then we still keep it open for that waiver in 3 weeks and meet with Water Sewerage Commission. I only ask that as well because we're meeting with Conservation Commission next week, and we kind of want to get that finished as well. And then this would be the last straw, would be coming back on the 27th and doing this one last waiver request, whether or not it gets accepted or not.
I can understand and accept what you're saying, but I'm not comfortable if we have to extend it into the next meeting for one reason, I think we extend it for the whole thing. I'm telling you, I'm comfortable with what we have here so far, but I don't want to break it up into some waivers tonight, and then we've got to close the public hearing and take a vote. And I don't know, maybe I'm just stodgy, but that's the way we've done it before. We've kept it open until we needed to close it. So with all due respect, I'm going to decline to do that. I'm going to just let's focus on the 27th to getting it done, including the Water and Sewer Commission, and we'll make a decision that night on what we hear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand, and I wasn't intending that the hearing be closed tonight. And it's essentially a distinction without a difference. Keeping it all together, I respect that. But, having gone through it, it doesn't sound like, I guess this is a consensus, which isn't legally binding. If something, you change your minds in 3 weeks, but it does sound like, and if you want to ask, your other board members how they feel, of course, that's fine. That's kind of what I'm looking for. But it does seem like, I just don't want to be presumptuous about it. If there's something else you want to continue to have us think about, I think we just rather know tonight. It seems like everything's okay, other than the water and the sewer fees. So again, I'm not looking for a formal vote, just to make sure that we know where we stand on all those things.
Well, I'm anticipating that you're going to be fine and get a comprehensive permit, but I'm not going to. I see it as jumping procedurally, and I just don't see a need to do that from the town's point of view. So I'm going to decline to do that. However, you have my word and Paul's word and the members' word that we're moving forward, and we just want to hear about this last issue that, for a bunch of reasons, we should have heard about before. And I'm not blaming you on that. I'm saying I didn't think of it till the last meeting too, and then it came up, and then we had the holidays. So let's just hold off 3 weeks. 3 weeks, we'll be back.
No problem whatsoever, and I know that that's fine, and I have full confidence that we are just about there. And I just want to say that same thing on our side. Not going to go backwards and try to figure out why didn't we try to ice it before, for whatever reason. Maybe everything else, working with the town, and everything seemed great, and it just somehow fell through the cracks. But here it is, no big deal.
You remember the former water commissioner? That's why we didn't. He brought it up to us. He brought it up to everybody.
Superintendent, Mr. Knapp, yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Knapp, a great guy. I miss him. He was front and center on all of these, so there was no ignoring him. But we'll get it done. And Paul, I'll ask Paul to keep us in the loop by email with Mr. Fournier that he or his representative will be able to come into the meeting in 3 weeks so we can get there.
I've already emailed Frank.
Yeah.
I emailed him, so we'll get in touch this week.
And also, we just received the final plans on Monday, or at least the members did. And again, that might have been the holiday break. I don't know when they were submitted, but it'll give us opportunity just to look at those. I have not looked at the finals to see the changes, the sidewalk and the turn lane issue. And is there any reason to go through that now tonight? We can, if you or the engineer, Mr. Carr, feels we should. You tell me.
I think we had pretty much gone through what they would be. I know they were. You just got them recently, but I mean, I'm okay with not presenting them, quote unquote. But I leave it to Paul. If you think we should go over, it won't take long. That's up to you.
Paul, do you want to open them up on the virtual desktop or no? Is Paul here?
Yeah. You want to see the, okay.
No, I'm asking you, do you feel the need? I'm asking Peter and team, do you feel the need? I'm sorry, Paul, I wasn't addressing you. I didn't mean to address you.
Sorry.
Does the applicant team feel the need to open up the finalized plans and show us what has been changed or not? I'm comfortable that you were trying to wrap up just a few issues. I just haven't gone into the plans to look at them yet. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I'm thinking not, but I mean, Brandon, if you think you want to have them put up on the screen quickly.
I could, the three changes since the last meeting, or the three updates since the last meeting. Well, actually, I think there was only one update since the last meeting. It was adding I think the board requested a bus covering. We just added that right at the entrance to the plan. So that was the only change, I believe, to the plans. I have it on the screen here. I can show you.
Sure. Put it up as long as we're,
Quickly here. Share screen.
because if the government dissolves between now and 3 weeks, you're going to be angry at us.
Right.
It's right here. We added it. I just added an 8 by 12 foot proposed covered bus waiting area right here, and it seemed like a good spot.
Yep.
With the landscaping and things like that. You'll remember before the last hearing, the only other change to our plans was we removed those 18 parking spaces and just labeled them as reserved parking.
Got it.
So other than that, I think those are the only updates, other than changing the title and dates. And I think we added the lighting plans formally into the plan set just so it would be one set of plans instead of having multiple.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carr.
Of course.
Forgive us for asking for the details that, maybe others don't ask for, but thank you for doing that.
That makes sense.
Okay. Is there anything else tonight, Peter?
Nope.
Members, any questions?
Good.
I don't have any questions.
Anybody else in attendance at the meeting want to ask questions of the applicant or of the ZBA? Please speak up, raise your hand or microphone. For the record, I don't note anybody. So thank you, Peter and Jason and your team for coming in and for your patience, and let's wrap it up.
Okay, thank you.
We have to, I think we have to take a vote. Is there a motion to continue this till January 27, 7:05 p.m.?
I'll make a motion to continue the meeting to January 22nd at 7. Oh,
27.
yeah, sorry, I think I said that actually, but January 27th at 7:05 p.m.
To normal second.
Okay, all those in favor of the continuance, Mr. Wren, how do you vote?
Vote yes, sir.
Mr. Tenori?
Yes.
Mr. Noel votes yes. Thanks very much for your help tonight.
Thank you all, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay,
Take care.
let's take a look. Thank you. Good night. Let's take a look at the agenda quickly. What else do we have, if anything? Just a couple. Sorry, Paul?
253 Mansfield.
Right. Yeah, thanks. We got a jumbled communication. Pardon me for describing it that way. As he flips through the papers on his desk. December 28th, a letter from Blattman, Bobrowski, and Haverty. Mr. DiGiuseppe, please accept this formal request of the applicant 253 Reservoir LLC to continue hearing until the board's next meeting in September. Applicant agrees to extend the 180-day period for the board to complete the public hearing from January 25, 2021, and will of course provide additional extensions in the event that a loaner continuance is subsequently requests. That's, I think there are a few typos there. I believe he's saying a later continuance. Paul, we don't know what this applicant, there's been no discussion with this applicant about what its plans are, correct?
No.
And we asked for a extension in writing, and this is what we got.
Right. Because the 120-day, the 120-day period is coming up.
180 days, yeah.
180 days. Is that toward the end of this month?
But I'll ask for the board to vote on to accept this extension, which I'll read as an extension to our next meeting in September, to some date in September. I mean, I don't see any problem with this as an extension. Is there a motion to accept this as a request to extend the 180-day period to our meeting in September?
I'll make a motion to
Accept the,
extend the meeting. What am I doing? To extend the,
accepting the request,
accept the
the
request.
extension of our 180-day period in which to render a decision to our meeting in September, which I'll take to mean September 1st at this point.
Okay, right. I will make that motion.
We're just voting on the request, right?
Yeah, to accept this request.
Well, I'll accept well,
Will you second that motion? We can talk about it.
I'll second the motion, then I want to talk about the actual request.
There's been a motion and a second. So my idea is this. I think we have to ask Paul to ask the applicant's rep to come to us at the January 27th meeting or the one we scheduled in February, continue it to that date. I know we don't want to just keep rolling this forward. So we can ask them, what are you doing here? What are you planning? I agree. I don't think we want to just hold this open for 6 or 7 more months, but I also don't want to just close it off or deny it. We've got an extension of time on, when we have to make a decision. So what do you think about requesting their presence here?
Yeah, and there was an email, I may not have attached it, but there was an email from the agent saying they would like to continue to the February 17th, your February 17th meeting. So they may be coming in with a plan, but I will email Lynn and
I would suggest then that we vote on this in conjunction with asking our director and hero, Paul, to request that the applicant rep attend the meeting on, is it February 17th, Paul?
Yes.
Our scheduled meeting for February 17th, that we've continued it to that date, and we require somebody's presence at this meeting to update us so that we know what we're voting on if they're going to ask for another continuance of the meeting. In other words, they've extended the deadline here if we accept the letter, but we don't have to keep continuing it, and we want to hear from them. Is that clear, Paul, on what we're asking? I mean, does that make sense, Paul?
I will.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And Jim, that's my request, that we continue it to February 17th at, say, 7:10 p.m. But with a communication to the applicant that we want to hear what they're thinking.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
I think if they don't come to the next meeting, then
we can vote to turn it down, to say we have
last one.
Sorry, I keep stepping on you.
I said our last one, Bay Road Heights, was the same way. Oh yeah, they just want an extension, and we finally said, "Hey, listen, you have to come before us, so we're going to deny it or close it out." And finally, they withdrew.
I think I'll I agree. I'd say that we don't have to extend it beyond the 17th. You've given us an extension of our deadline, but we don't plan to extend it beyond the 17th meeting unless we hear from applicant representative at that meeting as to what the plans are, as for a reason why we keep extending it. We're not trying to be a hard ass on it. We're just saying we want to know what's going on. With that in mind, and I'll ask Paul to include me at least on the email communication. So if I don't think they're clear, I'll say, hey, wait, let's be clear about this. With that in mind, Mr. Wren, how do you vote on the motion to accept the December 28th letter as an extension of our deadlines?
I accept.
You vote yes?
Yes.
Mr. Tenore, do you vote to accept?
Yes.
And Mr. Noel votes to accept the December 28th letter as well. Okay, Paul, thank you for that. And just keep me in that loop. And if it looks like they're trying to not be definitive that they're going to attend, or that they don't understand what we're saying, I'll jump in there too. Okay. Are there any bills and warrants?
No.
I confess that I have not processed any minutes beyond what we didn't do the last time. We will get them. Nicole, I don't know if I have the minutes from the December meeting. I know I have them from the November meeting, and I was working on those, but check on the December meeting. And if I don't have them, please get them to me.
I think I might have sent them, but I can send them both again if it's easier for you.
You know what? I think you sent them to me too. And when I searched, I couldn't find them. Things just fell apart in my system over the holidays. I guess that's what the holidays are for, but my computer took a holiday and I can't find anything in my emails. My email's giving me problems. I think it's overloaded. If you could send them again, if you did send them.
I can do that.
That would be helpful.
No problem.
I hate email. Can't live with it, can't live without it. Is there anything else to come before us tonight? Nope.
I think so.
Is there a motion to adjourn for the night? Next meeting being January 27th at 7 p.m.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
As long as the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the United States of America still exist. Mr. Wren, how do you vote on the adjournment? This could be our last meeting, so this is
I
serious.
was going to say, subject to all those various issues, I vote yes.
Mr. Tenori, how do you vote?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Noel votes as yes as well. Thanks, Lucas and Alan too, and Mr. Wiggins for taking part, and Mr. Iafrede and Ms. Salvo as well. Paul, just keep in mind, you may need to communicate with the media center to get the recording online. But thanks all very much and stay safe, right?
Yep.
That's right.